So good evening once again, and I'd like to welcome you to OTF Connects, a wonderful series of online professional development for teachers. And tonight we are going to learn from a wonderful educator from Simcoe County, Becky Kennedy, and she's going to be talking to us about using student portfolios to make learning visible. So a really warm welcome to Becky. She's going to tell you a little bit more about herself and her role in the education profession. And I'd really like to welcome all of you as well from right across the province who have joined us tonight. So we look forward to a great session. So Becky, I am going to advance to your first slide, and then I'm going to turn off my mic and turn things over to you. Welcome, Becky.
Hi, everyone. Glad you're here tonight. This is my first time presenting, so please bear with me. It's kind of nice that I don't have to see your faces to know what you're really thinking. So please feel free to use the chat session. We're happy to answer the questions as we go along. Looking forward to it. But please also bear with me and be a little bit patient with me. I do tend to talk a little bit quickly, especially when I'm nervous. So if you do find that I'm talking quickly, please just make a comment in the chat room and I'll be sure to slow down a little bit. So I teach kindergarten in Simcoe County. I've taught everything up to grade 8, but kindergarten is kind of where my passion is. I was moved down to kindergarten when full-day kindergarten came into our school, and I've loved it ever since. I'm pretty passionate about play-based learning and inquiry-based learning, and a second passion along with that is using technology because I believe in the power that technology has to move learning forward, especially with our struggling students, but as we all know, what's good for some, necessary for some, is beneficial for all. So let's get started. We're going to be talking about digital portfolios. We'll look at several different ways that we can use digital portfolios in several different programs. I'm going to share a little bit about my story. I'm actually going to share a little bit about my son's story, and then we'll go from there. So what really got me started and got me thinking about this was when I went down to full-day kindergarten, one of my parents said to me, well, you're not sending home worksheets. That's not really part of the full-day program. How are you teaching my child to spell their name? How do I know that he knows how to write it? And so a big turning point for me was I was able to videotape this little guy spelling his name and send that to Mom. And she said, oh my goodness, thank you, thank you. The power of being able to see just exactly how he was forming it was really big for her. So my partner and I we've been using Google Drive as our digital portfolio tool, and we'll go into that a little bit more as time goes on. So we're going to look at three really big pieces in terms of digital portfolio options. The first one is Google Drive, and our school board supports that. The second one is Easy Blogger, and the third one that we'll look very briefly into is Seesaw. And if you guys can just give me a thumbs up if you've used any of those, heard of any of those. If you just want to use your smiley face tool, is it thumbs up or thumbs down? Oh good, you're still listening. That's great. Awesome. Great. So some of you haven't, some of you have. That's fantastic. Great. All right. Now it would be helpful to me if you can just let me know where you're from. So if you can go down to that clip art tool again, choose a symbol, and if you can place it on the chart, and just let me know where you're from. That will give me a bit of an idea as to where I kind of focus my comments. Sesame Snap, yes, that is. I've heard a lot of people use that one as well. Oh, a big mixture. Great. Yeah, my ideal classroom is kindergarten too. Excellent. Okay, so it looks like we have a good mixture, and hopefully that each of you will get some new tools and information that you can use as you set up some digital portfolios. So let me tell you a little bit about my school. So each full-day kindergarten classroom in our school has access to 2 iPads, 1 iPod, a Chromebook, and 2 teacher netbooks. I know that we're a technology-rich school. That's the same with the older grades. They have 2 iPads, a Chromebook, and 1 teacher netbook. We also use our personal devices, and our students have our trust to use that in order to help their learning. And again, I know we are a technology-rich school. Part of that is because we've really been passionate about using technology to move learning forward, and so we've advocated for ourselves to our administration, saying that there's a lot of benefits to that. So we'll get into that a little bit more as time goes on. So let me know what digital tools you tried. We talked a little bit about it, but if you could just, again, use that clip art tool and in the boxes, just let me know which ones you've tried. If you aren't sure or haven't tried anything, feel free to put one in that check mark, the question mark as well. That's great. Yeah, OneNote is pretty similar to Google Drive. It sort of depends on what your board supports. I see that up there. I'm not a OneDrive lover myself, but that's probably because I love Google Drive so much. Oh, again, great. A wide range. Fantastic. Good. I feel like you're going to give me a lot of feedback as time goes on as well. Fantastic. All right. So why document digitally? Again, we talked a little bit about the value of being able to see that. If you have any suggestions, if you want to use your toolbar to enter some text on the page with any of your answers, so if you just click on the toolbar and you click on the screen, you'll be able to type in an answer. Why do you think we can document digitally? Or feel free to put in the comments. What are the benefits that you've seen in your classroom or that you can see coming along? Great assessment tool, absolutely. Yeah, communication, that's huge. Making learning visible, definitely. Easy. A homeschool link, that is so huge, and we'll get into that a little bit about that. That's one of my biggest passions, is developing those strong homeschool connections, especially in the early years. Vital. Accountability. I have a quote for you later on. Yep, making our thinking and learning visible for sure. Oh, great answers already. Rich discussion from real scenarios. There's nothing like a student seeing a picture of themselves and their work and being able to speak to that. Yeah, very cool. Self-assessment for sure. Feedback, we're going to get into that. Growth over time, definitely. Yeah, these are all great answers. Awesome. One of the biggest reasons that I saw, and I think Susan's going to put a link to an article in there about using digital documentation to make learning visible. It's a fantastic article that just talks a little bit about the importance of digital documentation. Thank you, Susan. As well as the reasons why, the values behind it. Just a great resource. We're not going to look at it now, but for sure as time goes on, I definitely would. It's a blog that you should take a look at on more than one occasion. Fantastic stuff. So absolutely, these answers are exactly what I was hoping you'd come up with. Paperless, it's environmentally friendly. It's living and evolving, so it's constantly moving and changing. It's not stagnant. You can show your work to a broad audience, parents, students, to the world. And the work can stay with students as time goes on, which is really great. Easy to use too, right? Assessment can be done anywhere. You're not stuck assessing at a desk with a piece of paper. You can assess anywhere because you're able to put that in right away. All right, I'm just going to move on. So here's my quote that I was speaking of. The teachers must leave behind an isolated, silent mode of working, which leaves no traces. Instead, they must discover ways to communicate and document the children's evolving experiences at school. They must prepare a steady flow of quality information targeted to parents, but appreciated by children and teachers. So this quote totally spoke to me. It's a huge shift right now in education, going from being stuck in a room, sort of working alone, to communicating and connecting in so many more amazing ways. Twitter, blogs, PD like this, PLCs, and just casual conversations. But I've noticed so much that parents want to be a part of their child's learning, and they don't necessarily understand the new mode of education, right? They don't get the tech, they don't get the iPads. Why are we using all that? They don't understand. So in my experience, the more that parents know, the more confident they feel in the learning that is happening at school. So how can I make myself more open and accessible? And how can I gain their confidence? Especially in the early years, those things have been vital. And then again, how do we make our students feel proud of their work and being willing to share that with each other, being willing to take risks? And I think that all of that is part of the reason behind digital documentation and why it's so vital. And absolutely, 20 years old, right? It doesn't change. So important. And I like that comment about Google Drive ongoing feedback. Yeah, students can immediately use it, which we will get to for sure. All right, so Google Drive is the first way we're going to look at. If you don't have a Google Drive account, Susan just put the link in there. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to kind of explore it in a few minutes. But I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why we use it, how we use it, and then I'll let you go roam free for about 5 minutes or 10 minutes, depending on how things are going, where I can answer questions, and then I'll let you set up an account and work through that. So this is what a Google Drive account looks like. It just kind of gives you a picture. There's folders in the, just getting myself a little arrow here. So these are all made of folders in here. You can see along the side here, there's a square with 9 buttons there, and then that gives you all of the other options in Google Apps for Education. My school board supports it. I'm not sure if every school board, I know every school board doesn't support it, but because it's backed by our school board, we have unlimited storage, which is fantastic. You'll notice along the side here, there's different options from my drive, things that are shared with me by other people, so colleagues or students. Google Photos, which I haven't really used much of, but it's just another way to store all your photos and recent items. I'm going to go into a little screencastify in a couple minutes. That'll explain a little bit more to you about how that works. And again, this just gives you a little bit of a display again about the folders. Up here it's showing me who I'm sharing mine with. So my teaching partner, he has access to all of our students' work, of course, as well, because we work together. And so we're both adding things at the same time. And these are all of the folders that I have down the side here. All right, so setting up your class folder. I have a little screencastify, which is just a little video that I'm going to actually direct you to. Susan's going to put the link in the chat session, and I'm going to let you click on it, open it up, and watch it. It's about, I think it's about 6 minutes, and then we'll come back in together, and in about 6 minutes, if you can just give me the thumbs up using the smiley face when you're finished watching it, then we can come back in together and move on. So 6 minutes.
Becky, can I recommend that maybe instead of doing the smiley face thumbs up, that we do a green check mark when you are finished watching it? And the reason for that is that the green check mark will stay there. The thumbs up and the smiley faces, they disappear after about 6 seconds. So can we do that?
Perfect. Thanks, Susan. Yeah, definitely. That's great. So it'll take about 6 minutes. Give me a green check when you're finished watching it, and you can continue to put questions in the chat window. So I'm going to stop talking and let you go to it. All right, I'm just going to give 1 more minute. It looks like most people are finished, and then we will move on. All right, it looks like we are just about ready. Yeah, this is great. I'm really liking these check marks. Sorry about that, Wilma. Hopefully, oh, I'm sorry you got booted out of the session as well, Adrian. Hopefully that will improve as time goes on. If not, again, this is recorded, so you can always come back, but I'm hoping that's not the case. Okay, we're gonna move on. And this is just a quick recap. So the Screencastify showed you how to set up an account if you didn't already have one, and then some of the features behind it. So once again, the first thing you want to do is to create a folder, and then within those folders you can create a folder for your class, and then within those folders you can create other folders. So that's what we've done over the past couple of years. We really like the fact that both my partner and I are able to access that. And I believe I said in the screencast that we do share it with parents, and I'm going to go into a little bit more about my philosophy behind that as time goes on. And again, so within that folder, you're creating a subfolder for each of your students, which we have here. And as time goes on, again, that gets shared back with our students. So in kindergarten, I did say this in the Screencastify as well, but in kindergarten, we're just not crazy enough to attempt to give our students all logins. Not saying that it can't be done, but you can share that back with them. And then throughout the years, because this is what our school uses, now they have a digital portfolio that sticks with them. So can you imagine being in grade 8 and looking back and seeing all of your pictures from kindergarten? Just really cool. Oh, I love that. Do parents not need Google accounts? I'll get into that in just a minute. So if you can hold off, I'll explain to you a little bit about how we did that. We have a couple of other things first. Yeah, absolutely. I believe that. I totally believe they can. I'm just not ready for it yet. You can give your JKs all accounts for sure. Very exciting. All right. I'm going to go back, sorry, to that page. I went ahead. So within that folder, you can create a folder for each child. What I wanted to do now is to give you an opportunity to explore your Google account if you don't have one. Susan just put in a file for a link to my son's account. So this is a Screencastify, and I'm just showing you a little bit about what my son can do in Google Drive. So he's in grade 3, 8 years old, just got his Google account activated, and I can just tell you that he is beyond excited about being able to type into his iPod at school. That is an argument enough for me to be able to have bring your own devices in schools. I've seen him write more than I've ever seen him write since he was able to do that. So it goes into a little bit about how he can provide peer-to-peer feedback, how I can provide feedback to him, and how his teacher can provide feedback to him. So again, I apologize that it's another link in another video, but I'm going to direct you to that video if you're interested in that, especially if you're older than kindergarten, because there's so much power in being able to give feedback to each other and not necessarily having to be in the classroom to do that. And if you're not interested in that, feel free to go to drive.google.com and set yourself up an account and just experiment with the new button and see what you can create. Create a folder, attempt to document, which we'll get into, just see what that can do. If not, feel free to take a look at the screencastify. That is 3 minutes long, and then we'll come back together and move on. And that's one of the last times I'll direct you to do this. Okay, so again, if you can give me a check mark when you're done. Thank you. All right, it looks like most people are finished. So I'll just give about 30 seconds and then we're going to move on to a little bit about what you include in a digital portfolio. All right, I think we're going to move on. So let's look at what some of the things that you can include in your digital portfolios. So again, photos and videos. We think of process over product, so it's not just about the end result that we put in there. When we first started using digital portfolios, we took a lot of pictures, hundreds of pictures. Got a little bit over the top, if I can be honest. And then we started really thinking, well, what are the pictures showing? And do we really need 16 pictures of the same child doing the same thing? No, we don't. So we try and think about what's the learning that's happening in there? What does the picture tell me about the student? And what can I learn from this? What are they demonstrating? So just today, our students were, they decided that they wanted to start taking apart, we had an old little child computer in our class, and they wanted to take it apart. Someone had brought in a screwdriver, and they wanted to use it. And so the value of a video, we just held our iPad over there and started recording, and the questions and the thinking that was coming out was just so much greater than anything else that we could have done just by sitting there and listening or by writing it all down. So lots of value in that. Learning stories can be added in that, so just coming back and telling a little bit about what we've seen in there. Now that's coming from a kindergarten perspective, but certainly as students get older, learning stories to me would mean the work that they're doing, right? Evidence that they've decided to put in there. And then we use Pic Collage, and you can use Padlet as ways to store work in there as well. And that could be collaborative work, or that could be single student work. So we'll go into that and explain everything, which is one of my favorite apps. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. First things first is how to insert photos and videos. There's a link that Susan's going to put up there on how you insert a photo or video. I'm not going to direct you there now, but if you're interested in that, you can come back later on. So it's really easy to do. You just open the Google Drive folder and click on the child's name and open their folder. All you need to do is push this little plus button. And the fantastic thing is that you can take the photo directly in Google Drive. So once you've pushed the plus button, all you need to do is press upload if you already have it stored on your device, or use the camera. That's fantastic. So now all we have to do is remember to open the drive, and then we saved ourselves a step. We don't have to go and upload those later on. It's already done. My partner, I must say, is much better at remembering to do that than I am. I'm just, oh, get the photo really fast. So it takes me a little bit longer. Then the neat thing as well is that you can rename it. So again, on that, at the top of their folders, there's a little 3 dots. When you click on the 3 dots, you can rename the photo. So I renamed this one with the student's words. I made a number train. You can put in a curriculum expectation for that. The name can be as long as you want. So it could be 5, 6, 7, 8 sentences long if that's the description that you're looking for. All right, learning stories. So again, we're just going to talk a little bit more about what they look like. Actually, I just really put this slide in there because there's a great article that's attached to it that, again, Susan will put up the link for that. Just about learning stories, the how and the why. It's more kindergarten appropriate, so we won't go to it now, but if you're interested in that, please take a look. It's really a fantastic resource. All right, Google Docs and Google Slides. So those are some of the ways that we use to document learning. There's some of the ways that we create learning stories, and we create inquiry maps as we're discovering something in the class. So that can be done in kindergarten. That certainly could be done in grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and that could be even more collaborative as students get older. There's 2 examples there, and again, you're welcome to take a look at them now. You don't have to. That just gives samples of some things that we've done in our classroom. And you're welcome to take a look at that and use that. And it'll show you just how you can use Google Docs and Google Slides in order to make that happen. This is what one of them looks like. It's just not super clear here. One of the big features of Google Docs, so that's the equivalent to Microsoft Word. One of the big benefits of this is that you can insert pictures directly into a doc. And up here, you'll notice the Insert tab. You just go down and click on Image, and you can insert an image already in your Google Drive folder. You can insert an image from your computer in there, or what's even more cool is you could take a picture right away and insert that. Oh yes, absolutely, there will, Melissa. So you can put it in right away, and then you automatically have it, and it just saves you steps. So it's one of the things that I love the most about Google Drive is that it helps you just to streamline every process. And for all of us who are very busy and trying to manage lots of things, this helps to make it a smoother process. That's the same for Google Slides. This is just a little piece of that sample that I've given you the link to. So we have 3 pictures in there. Again, I could take the pictures directly into the slideshow or insert them really quickly. And then what we've done is we've taken those books or those slides and we've made them into books in our classroom. So then the students can come back and look at that and they can remember our inquiries. Sometimes it's a springboard to push them a little bit further and a little bit deeper in their thinking. We've had this baking inquiry that you can see right now going on for ages. This is actually Halloween and they're making potions, but they're still coming every day in kindergarten writing down their recipes and asking us to get the ingredients so that they can make their creations. So there's lots of value in being able to put that in there. It's an easy way to save it, print it off, put in a little book, and it's done and ready to go. Pic Collage is another great way that you can document learning and create learning stories. If you can just show me with let's do a smiley face if you've used Pic Collage. I think I asked that before, but now I'm forgetting. See a few smiley faces there. Yep, just a couple, that's great. A couple in the comment section. So Pic Collage is an app that's available for any of your mobile devices. And what you can do is it's really easy to create beautiful tutorials. Oh yes, Susan, I forgot about the link there. So there's a link that you can watch later on. You don't need to go there at the moment. What you do for Pic Collage is when you open the app, you're able to do freestyle, grids, or templates, depending on what the learning is. So once you've clicked those, I clicked freestyle here, and then you put the plus button, you can add photos right away. You can also do a web search, which is super cool because if you're asking your students to research something, they can do a web search and insert some of those, yeah, for your Twitter account for sure, insert some of those images right away. Let's say it was on animals. Done. Bam, right there. They have some of their research already done, and then you can add text later on. So here am I over here choosing some of the photos that I wanted to use. And then our students were building the CN Tower. So I was able to take some pictures on that and then document that. Ideally, I would put some more words in there, maybe some curriculum expectations, depending on who my audience was. And then either put that, you're right, on Twitter or save it to Google Drive, which is really easy to do. In this little box here, if you click there, it'll connect right to your Google Drive account. Which again is fantastic because it just saves me a process. It's right there. Some of the neat things that we've been doing with our students lately with this is when we give them a little task, so say for part of our small group instruction we were learning about the letter A, we would have them go and take pictures of the letter A, and it's very easy for them to open up the Pic Collage app and then add all those pictures in, and then that's their learning done right there. All we have to do is send it to Google Drive, and then it gets shared with their parents, and they can look at that together at home. So it brings the learning at home. Sorry, Melissa, I'm just reading your question. Absolutely, yeah, so if the tech is available, it's interesting. It's amazing the amount, the different perspective that the students offer to what we're doing. Student voice, absolutely so important. And the value that that those little voices have is just unbelievable. They know so much more even than we give them credit for, right? So we use that a lot, just in order to it makes it look pretty too, right? Aesthetics are lovely, so that just a nice way to make documentation look nice. Students can use it easily, and then it just saves to their Google Drive quite quickly. Another tool that is just recently been introduced to me in terms of its value added for digital portfolios and being able to collaborate and share learning is Padlet. So I always thought that, oh, we use Padlet a lot in workshops as kind of a back channel resource, but I never really saw the value added for student work. Now, we're going to try this. I'm going to see if this works. Some of you, I'll direct you to the Padlet and we'll see if it'll work. But this is what it looks like. So what I've done is our students started weaving the other day. So all I had to do was open a Padlet, click on it, and add a photo. I added 3 photos and then a little story behind it to say what was going on. And I can easily save this as a PDF and save it directly. Once it's saved as a PDF or as a photo, it can go into my Google Drive. We're going to experiment with this a little bit. So I'm going to direct you to this website. I believe that, yep, Susan put the link up there. It's padlet.com/rekennedy/sample. You might have to type it in directly in order to make it work. The QR code might work as well. It wasn't working for me last night, but I'm not sure if that's just a clarity issue. Oh, thank you, Susan. So if you want to go there, I have it open as well. Double-click on the wall on the screen to add, and just add a sentence. Let me know what city you're from. Awesome. So you'll notice too, when you double-click, there's a few options that come up for you. And one of those options is adding a photo or adding video recording, which is so neat. So your students can actually take a video and add it right away to there, or they can take a photo and add their photo to that. So if you're doing some learning about, I'll go back to animals. If you're doing a little research project on animals, or if that's their inquiry and they want to share something all together, it takes no time at all in order for them to add their thoughts. It does audio recording as well. So for our little guys who aren't typing yet, we can get their thinking right on there, and then it's saved. So you can save that link to your Google Drive, and then you have all that learning in one spot based on that one topic, which is really, really neat. The other way I've seen it is that you can create a Padlet for each student, and then that's how you can save their learning over time, and you can show that growth too. And Padlet is free. You can set up an account and then add that as you go. On our slide, I did set up a QR code, so I'll direct you back to the slideshow in case you're out of there. And along the side of the Padlet, one of the options is this little square with the triangle, and that's the export button. So what you can do at the bottom of that export button, it gives you a little QR code. So even if you just printed off the QR code and put it for each student, then all they had to do is scan it, and then they could add to their Padlet themselves, which is great. It's also a nice way to share your learning on Twitter, which is really neat as well. And again, if you save it as an image, then you can upload it to Google Drive. No problem at all. Yeah, absolutely. You can put it right up on the smartboard for them to scan with your projector. Anything like that works right away. And then that takes away the step of having to type it into the computer if you just have to scan your QR code. Yeah, oh, I'm glad you learned something new about it. Yeah, it was one of those things where I thought it was just a little bit of a gimmick, and then I saw it being used in this way, and I thought, oh, that's fantastic. What a neat resource, and really user-friendly and all ability friendly, right? There's so many ways that students can share their learning on there, which is really great. Oh, good, I'm glad. So everyone can go back and use Padlet tomorrow in their classroom. That'll be great. All right, so maybe I'm looking for some suggestions from you guys. So if you can use your text tool, or feel free to put it in the comment box. So in what curriculum areas can you see Pic Collage or Padlet being used? Or what areas have you used it? So if you're thinking about social studies, Maybe name an activity, tell me a way in language. Any ideas that you have, I'd love to see them. Your ideas, all of them, yes. I've only ever used it in staff meetings and workshops. Those get to know you activities. Oh, math work, great idea, yeah, for sure. Ooh, Pic Collage for drawing or creating process and art. That's a great idea. And really, when we're talking about the value of process over product, if you think about taking pictures, even setting a timer and every 5 minutes you take a picture of your work and then they add that up, then you can really see the process over time and how they're improving. Great idea. Brainstorming? Yep, for sure. Absolutely. Different ways to solve a problem, yeah. Yeah, we're thinking about that consolidation piece, right, in math. So when they have a way in order for everyone to share their learning, just fantastic. And the nice part, too, is that you don't necessarily have to write your name on there. So those students who are a little bit too shy to share, now they have a way that they can make their learning visible without feeling intimidated. It's just, yeah, fantastic. Collaboration like right now. We're basically Padleting right now, yes. The writing process. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, fantastic. Lots of awesome ideas. It's one of the things that I love so much about this is that getting as much from you as I can possibly try and give. All right, so Explain Everything is another tool that I love. And the reason why I'm sharing it with you is because it integrates so well into Google Drive so that it's really easy for our students to use it. Now, I don't use it as much in kindergarten, and that's just out of habit because I tend to use Pic Collage and Easy Blogger, which we'll get into a lot more. But I did use it all the time when I taught grade 3. So before I went down to kindergarten, I taught grade 3, and I was lucky enough to teach all the math. And I had a teaching partner who taught all the language. So I basically used Explain Everything every day in order for my students to share their math learning. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes, 5 minutes now, and take a look at those 2 YouTube clips. Those are of my students' work. They're sharing their mathematical thinking, and they're not students who were always my level 4s. They were students who sometimes struggled to show their thinking, but once I was able to see the process and what their thinking was, we were able to readjust and find out where those misconceptions were in order to move learning forward. So feel free to take a quick look at that. I'll give you maybe less than 5 minutes. Give me the check mark again, actually, when you're done, and then we can move on. All right, I'll just give one more minute. All right, I think it's looking like the majority of you guys are done and ready to move on. So I don't want to hold anyone back. And if you haven't finished, feel free to come on back in, and then you can take a look at the links later on. So I did, while we were watching it, I shared a link to Mrs. Wydine's blog. I got to hear her speak at a tech conference in the fall. And so what she's done is she has uploaded resources or readers, from Reading A to Z she put in her Google Drive folder and then put it into Explain Everything. And now the students use it to practice their reading fluency. They can find main ideas in there, pick out sight words, so many great ideas to implement into guided reading. But really easy to do, right? And then you can record them as they read, and you can get a running record done without even necessarily having to be there. In kindergarten, we're still at the stage where we have to kind of sit beside each other, which is great. But then they have a recording of their reading, and then that again can be shared with parents. Parents just love it, which is fantastic. So again, Explain Everything. You need little language in order to be able to use it. You can take pictures, videos, use the finger tool, lots of different options. It shares to YouTube or directly to Google Drive, which is really easy to do. And then it's an easy learning curve. It's not hard for students to figure it out. When we first started using it, all we said to our guys was, okay, start playing. And the things that they were able to figure out was really even better than what I was able to figure out by using anything else. So again, I encourage you too, when you do start using these new apps, even in Google Drive, if you're wanting your students to use it, just let them explore. Give them some time to do that, because they're going to be able to figure out so much more than we do. That's one of my something that I always love to do. Okay, so sharing our learning. Here's my little peanuts, 2 of them. What we've done, so we store all the learning onto Google Drive, and that's great, but especially in the younger grades, in kindergarten, our guys don't necessarily have access to their Google Drive at any point. They don't know their usernames or passcodes yet. But what we've done is we've printed off some of those pictures and some of the learning that they've done, and we've put it in binders for them. And the reason why we started that was, in kindergarten, we've always done a kindergarten yearbook, and every month you did a journal, and every month you took a picture and you drew a picture of yourself. And last year, I think I spent about 40 hours in the last week of school putting together these crazy yearbooks. It took me forever. I thought, well, this is crazy. So this year, we're starting learning journey binders, and we're adding in those pictures as time goes on, and they're choosing the pictures that are going into their portfolio. So it kind of takes that digital learning, but it puts them into the hands of those little guys who don't necessarily have access to the digital tools all the time. And you can see this was a picture I just quickly snapped because I looked over and they were back looking through their binders. They pull it out all the time. They love to talk about their learning. They bring it home that way and share as well, because then it's something tangible that they can show their parents that they've done and that they're really proud of. But some other ways that we share the learning are through Google Drive. So our parents all have access to that. So it's just a storage tool, right, until you've shared it with somebody else. It doesn't really have a whole lot of meaning. So again, we share it back to our students at the end of the year so that they have the portfolio as they move through the years. Or ideally, your students have their own account and then they're just sharing it with you so that they have all the ownership over that. You can also share it to the next teacher as well if they're interested in that. But if we share it to their account, we don't necessarily need to do that. What I'm going to do is, on the next slide, there's a link to, it's just to give you, it's a link to a folder with lots of tools on ways that you can use Google Drive to share, and it gives you an explanation on how to do that, as well as a document that you can send directly to parents to help them get set up. So again, the easy thing to do in sharing is you just click the plus button beside there for the person you want to share with. The piece that to keep in mind, and I did talk about that in the screencastifys, but can edit means that whoever has access to that folder can take away or add work as they see fit. So most often, when I'm sharing with parents, they only have viewing access. My teaching partner obviously has editing access. And students, when they share with me, then I have editing access as well. But with other students, it's just viewing access, where they can make comments and things like that, but they can't take things out. And that's really important to keep in mind, because although on Google Drive they have lots of features where you can back things up and come and get trash and fix those mistakes and see where things were deleted, it's pretty devastating to a student whose work is gone missing by somebody else. And as a teacher, we don't necessarily want our parents to have access to move and change things, right? We want to be able to see that. We want them to share in the learning without changing the learning necessarily. Exactly, yeah, you can restore it from a history. But it's still pretty panicky for a grade 3 student whose work has gone missing for sure. Oh, that's great, Karen, that you're sharing these sessions with your staff. Absolutely. So helping get parents to set up an account. Now, I teach at a school that has, we're sort of a mixed range of socioeconomic statuses. Most of our parents do have internet access and computers at home, not all. All of our parents who didn't have internet access, though, they did have a cell phone. So the nice thing about Google Apps is that you can easily get it. It's a free app that they can just put on their phone. So last year, I had 25 students, and I had 23 parents who were accessing Google Drive on a regular basis. This year, it's not quite as high, and the problem for that is because it's as a result of the Work to Rule action. Because what we did is we sat down with our parents during student-led conferences, and then we were able to share the learning with their students with them, and then we got them set up on their own account at that same time. So the nice thing about that is that, yeah, they were set up right away. They don't need a Gmail account. They can use their own email account in order to set up an account to share that, to have the work shared with them. Some of them chose to, but most of them didn't. And that's big for me too, right? Because another account just means something else they have to remember, another password they have to remember. And if we want parents to be involved, we need to make it, as one of my philosophies is that we need to make it as streamlined as possible. So in that document that Susan shared with you, it's something that we put together at our school with somebody else from our school board. And it gives parents information about all the different Google Apps for education. So it explains to them what slides are, what docs are, and it tells them how to set up an account. But again, I can't stress that enough. If you want everybody on it, if you're sitting with them, then they're going to sign up. And then their child is going to want them to sign up too, because there's so much value in sharing that learning at home. Oh, so we hold our student-led conferences usually in November. And that was okay for us, especially in kindergarten, because it took us that amount of time in order to get all the accounts set up, all the pictures in there, and ourselves organized, and then to teach the students how to speak to their work. And we did a lot of modeling with that so that they were able to talk about what they were working on next and what they were doing in those pictures. And then we were ready for student-led conference time. So that was a definite miss this year, but looking forward to that again next year. And this year I still have, I think I only have 5 JK parents who are not on, and all my SK parents from last year, of course, they're still accessing that same account as last year, which is great. That wasn't really a learning process. Issues about privacy if you store pictures on Google Drive. That is an excellent question. So because it's a secure account with our board, it hasn't been an issue. We don't put other students' pictures in other drives, if that makes sense. So what we do, number one, is we focus on the learning and not the child doing the learning. So we're not really getting a whole lot of pictures of faces. We're getting pictures of the learning that's happening. So then that kind of takes away some of the security issues anyways. The other one is, again, is if there's 2 students in a picture, and if that student doesn't have media permission, then we wouldn't put that in another drive. We really wouldn't put it in another drive anyways. If something happened that we did, we would crop the picture and find ways around it that way. Oh, Karen, we hold them in evening and daytime. So it's usually the Thursday night and then Friday during the day. Yes, and parents, I like that idea, Vanessa, that parents can help, students can help their parents set up accounts. Something else I'm passionate about is our student tech support team, which we have going at our school. And so now we've solicited the help of some older students in grades 6, 7, and 8 that are becoming experts on Google Drive. And not only are they training other teachers on how to use Google Drive and other students on how to use Google Drive, but one of our goals is that they're going to be running some workshops for parents to support them. Because again, the more you know, the easier it is to understand the value behind all of this technology use, because it's not the way that we grew up going to school. Yep, so that's great, absolutely great advice. Awesome, yeah, and for sure our students know how to use Google Drive. They know how to find their folder. They do know how to upload pictures, but because it's our account that we're using, we're just pretty finicky on how that works out, and that's just for our own safety. We just want to really be conscious of our own safety concerns. So again, feel free to make use of that document there to share that with parents. All right. So moving on to Twitter, and again, thank you for keeping the chat session going. If you do have more questions as we go, please be sure to put those in the chat session. And my email address will happen at the beginning and the end. And I'm passionate about answering those questions. I love technology, and I love anything that we can do to move students' learning forward. And I love my thinking pushed in anyway too. So please keep adding that in there. So Twitter is another way, and although it's not a digital portfolio, it's sort of the way that our class shares our learning. So I do email parents on a weekly basis, and a lot of our learning is spread that way, and that goes directly, of course, to the parents, and it cuts out any middleman. On Twitter, it's another way we share our class learning, and it's also the way that I share my professional learning. So again, great question about privacy on Twitter. So all of our students sign media consent forms at the beginning of the year. If a student doesn't have media consent, then they don't go on Twitter. So we're very conscious about who those students are, and we make sure that their pictures are not on there. And as you can see here, in the picture right here, we're really trying to focus not on the students' faces, but on the learning that's happening. So you can see that this little guy here is measuring, using a tape to measure. And then the other two are painting with some mud. One thing that I wanted to say that I want to make my own learning visible. So something that I do is I don't have 2 Twitter accounts. There's a lot of different schools of thought on this, but I have 1 Twitter account. It's my professional one and my school professional one. And that's because I really want parents to see the learning that's happening as well. I want them to know what's going on in my head as I'm thinking about different things. And that's really helped them to kind of develop an understanding my philosophy and why we're doing some of the things that we're doing in the class. So I make sure that I'm posting on there, try daily. Oh, thank you, Susan. I try and make sure I'm posting on there daily, but it doesn't always happen. But I do make sure that whenever I'm at a conference or a workshop, whenever I was part of a book club last year, that I'm posting on there too. And parents are following along on that. I try not to make it onerous so that it doesn't take away from all the learning that's happening in the classroom, but we want them to see it. I'm just reading your comment there, Melissa. I don't have a sample with me right now of what it looks like. It's really just a sentence that I consent, that everyone signs that says, I consent to my child being on social media, including, I think it says including Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all those things. And we have a few, it's given to us by the legal department. It's not something that I've developed. It's just part of our school. I do make that clear to parents. And again, our focus, we really try hard to focus on the learning and not on the students. So we really try hard not to get their faces in there. Yeah, I can't remember, Melissa. I'm sorry exactly how it's worded. It is a little bit vague, I'm sure, at best, and I'm sure that's part of legal reasoning behind that. And I have 2 whose parents are not comfortable with their children being on Twitter, and so we're just taking a picture of their work, or we're making sure that we're getting a really good angle in to make sure that they're not in it. Yeah, I wish I could remember, Melissa. I really can't exactly what it says. you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure it just says social media. I'm pretty sure it doesn't say Facebook, Twitter specifically. But again, if you focus on the learning and not on the faces, it's not as much of an issue anyways. Okay, so we don't have too much time left, but I do want to get into EasyBlogger. This is something that I've started with this year. It was a challenge to me by one of our tech gurus at our school board, and then I got a new teaching partner in the classroom next door who used it last year, and she said, well, your students should be blogging. If they're sharing it to Google Drive and then they're sharing it with their parents, why on earth are they not sharing it with the world? So we have gotten ourselves onto EasyBlogger. Has anyone used EasyBlogger before? Just give me a quick thumbs up if you have. So okay, most of you it's brand new. Basically what EasyBlogger is it works with blogger.com. And that, again, for us at our school board, it's connected to our Google accounts, which is just fantastic. So it's just a way that it's a video blog, or it can be texting, or it can be photos, and they can talk about their work. So learning can be shared with the families in the world. We develop success criteria as a class, and I'll get to that in a second. It's a great way to spend sharing time in class, so now our students have a meaningful opportunity to share the learning that's happened with each other. And then they're providing assessment to each other based on the learning that's happening and also based on the quality of the blogs. So I believe that the video here is a sample blog that's been done. I'm not going to direct you to there right now because I'm going to give you a chance to just take a peek at our blog, and then you can take a look at that YouTube clip then if you'd like. So it's an app that is for mobile devices. We have it on an iPad in our classroom. And here's what it looks like when you start to set it up. So as you open it up, you're seeing pictures here. On my class, you'll see names. And all the student has to do is click on their picture. And then it asks, is this you? And you move on. Super easy to use. The link in the comments section tells you how to set it all up. And I'm not going to go into that right now. I just kind of want to show you the advantages of it. It is a super quick, easy setup. When you click on this little toolbar here, you click and hold it so that students can't just do it. And I would say that this is usable in up to grade 4 even. In our school, they're using it up to grade 4. Some of them are actually using blogger.com, which is just the regular blogs. But most of them have chosen this. It takes about 10 minutes to add a profile to all of your students. This is what the screen looks like. The only thing I want to point out really quickly when you come back to it is make sure you click review posts on so that students can't just automatically post to the blog. That way you have to check those over. So once they've picked their name, this is what pops up. They can make a video, they can type, or they can take a photo. The little speaker down here reads it to them, so you literally don't have to be able to read that. And then once you've chosen that, so let's say I picked photo, I can choose a photo that's already on the iPad, or I can take my own photo, which is what my students always do. And for some reason, they always choose photos over videos. I'm not quite sure why. Then you take your picture. I think this is of my lunch or something, and it asks if you're happy with the photo. So automatically, now there's some thinking going on. They have to decide, is this the picture I really wanted to get? Does this display my learning? And then they move on. And again, it reads it to them. Then you could talk about your photo, or you can publish it right away. That works the same for a video. So the expectation of our students is that they talk about their photo and they tell us about the learning that's going on in there. Super easy to do. All you do is hold it, it counts you down, and then I think the limit is 1 minute and 30 seconds. So they can't just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. They have to be a little bit concise, which is sort of helpful as they move on. And then it publishes it automatically, sends it right up to their blog. They can close it up, give it to somebody else, and they can do the learning. So as a class, we co-created our success criteria after watching a few of our blogs. And Susan's going to give you our blog link right now. And you'll notice if you go back to the beginning, and we're still working on it sometimes, some of those blogs it's a little bit hard to hear. So that was one of the things that we started to learn about. And then we also had some silly voices as they started to get used to the program. Hopefully that'll happen much quicker in the older grades. So they had to do their best work, they had to speak loudly, and we're still looking for a good microphone for that, and that they have to have a picture or a video to go along with it. What I'm going to let you guys do, actually make sure when you go to our blog that you look at, we have a dash in our class, and our planning time teacher is doing some phenomenal work with our students, and they're creating their own music. So make sure you take a look at a couple of those blogs. I'm just going to give you, actually, you know what, I don't know that we have time to do that. I'm not going to give you any time to do that, but please go and look and see some of the work that she's doing with them. It's so cool. They're using boom whackers to program into an xylophone, which is attached to our dash, which is a robot, and then that's being recorded. So it's music that they've created themselves. It's just phenomenal stuff. Just going to read Andrea's question here. Yeah, so it's a quick submit app, yes, and it goes right to the website that you've created. So if you go to the setup, at the top it'll tell you how to set up your Blogger, and that sort of depends on what your school board has and how that is all worked out. They don't have to have their own blog, no, which is why this is a big selling feature for me. It goes into our class blog, so it goes right up there. Yeah, it's not for individual student blogs, it goes to a class blog. So if you want individual student blogs, then you would have to do a regular Blogger. The only other disadvantage to Easy Blogger is that you can only set it up on one iPad, and then if you want to have another iPad that links to your same account, you have to reset it up. So it's kind of just a finicky process. It doesn't take that much time, but it doesn't automatically set it up for you. Yeah, so it's just a quick submit app to the website. All right, and I apologize that we don't have more time to go over that because it's been a kind of a game changer for some of our guys this year. It's really motivated them to get their learning, keep it going. Okay, the last thing I wanted to show you quickly is Seesaw. Now, Seesaw is not something that I'm using currently in my class, but it is something that I see a lot of value in. Basically, it's an all-in-one digital portfolio app/website. So it is a way to store work. It also has a built-in interactive feature similar to Explain Everything. So students can then explain their thinking and have that go right into their folders. It's a link to parents, so parents can have access to that as well. Can go back and forth. The only big downfalls that I've seen in Seesaw, the one reason why I'm not using it is because all of my parents are set up on Google Drive, and because I believe in the value of making sure we set up those strong connections. To have everybody set up and then switch just doesn't seem fair to me. The other big non-selling feature for me is privacy issues. Because Google Drive, again, is supported by our board, it's a secure website, and I feel confident that the information, all of the things on there are property of our board. In Seesaw, because it's not owned by our board, it's not board property, the information then is not ours. And so that's a bit of a privacy concern, and some parents, as I've seen mentioned already tonight, some parents do have some questions about that. So that's something to consider. The last concern I had with it, and not a big concern, is that the learning is lost after that year. So you can't share all that wonderful work back to students. Parents would have to find a way to download it and save it another way if they wanted to keep that. And that's kind of a big, that was one of the things I love so much about Google Drive, is that our students will have their work saved for them as they get older. So that's something to consider. It looks phenomenal. There's some tutorials there. There's a blog there that I've given you that gives you some suggestions on some of the other benefits and negatives between Seesaw and other apps. But those are my two main ones that I want to point out. So it's something just to keep in mind, but I know that a lot of people are using it, and I've only heard good things from people who are using it. Just reading your question there, Andrea. Yeah, exactly. So if you don't pay, yeah. So then you have to figure out a way to save some of that, your students' work, or they have to find a way to save it. And it just doesn't sit right with me that some of that learning is lost. So something to consider and keep in mind. All right. That's about it. we have about 5 minutes left, so I've left a little bit of time if there's any other questions that you have. If not, you're welcome to take some of those links and then take a peek at that. I'm going to take some questions. Yeah, Google Sites, absolutely you could. I haven't used Google Sites myself, but because it's all into Google Apps, it's all connected there. Again, no, you know what? I think I would do it. You would just have to really think about what students are sharing. So there'd have to be a lot of pre-teaching there, right? Because it's not necessarily private. Absolutely, the junior kids can for sure have a website, and I've done that with grade 3s. We created websites. It's just being really conscious and about teaching about privacy and digital citizenship, and all those things have to be in place. Absolutely. Oh, great, Andrea, I didn't realize that. Yeah, but again, and right, that's something we should be teaching students about digital citizenship, and that's one of the best ways to learn, right, by giving them opportunities to display that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure, you can do that. Make a portfolio that's only shared between teacher, parent, and child. Definitely, definitely. But again, how can we find ways to give their learning even more value, right? By putting it out there to the world. I know that my students, when they see they're building the CN Tower, and then the CN Tower retweeted their picture, they lost their minds. So thinking about that too, right? That some stuff, yes, you want shared between teacher, parent, student, or maybe teacher, parent, student, and then other students coming in on that in terms of offering feedback and a peer assessment. But then the world, right? There's so much learning excitement when you know that there's a wider audience than just what you have there. That's one of the other reasons why blogs are pretty exciting as well. Kindergarten are still pretty in their own little world, but you know what I mean. For sure. Yeah, definitely. Definitely making sure those portfolios, or allowing those portfolios to be seen by other teachers. I just think that the excitement of a grade 8 coming back and looking at their kindergarten pictures, oh, that would be very cool. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, everyone. You've helped me get through this first presentation. I appreciate it. You've been a great audience. Lots of questions, lots of chat.
Thank you so much, Becky. So you started off tonight telling us how nervous you were and glad you couldn't see our faces. So I think considering you were a first time, no one would ever have known that. You shared great enthusiasm. You managed the platform really well. For those of you that are participants tonight, it can be a little bit awkward to be presenting and managing your slides and reading the chat and keeping track of all of that, and I think you just did that so well, so thank you very much. I loved so much of what you shared tonight. The idea that all of making our learning visible is about sharing the learning and not the students. You know, it's not posing kids, it's not having smiling faces, it's about the learning. I also really loved, you said right at the top, something about sharing the process of learning rather than the product, and I thought that was so rich. Often when we think about portfolios, we're thinking about end products, but it's really not about that. It's about the process. So thank you so much for all of that. I think you did a wonderful job. To the participants, on this slide, there is a link to the survey that OTF would love you to do about this session. And it's a link, so you can click right on that. I'm also going to put it into the chat. Oops, that's not the right one. It's still got Becky's information. Hold on. I will just go and grab that and put it into the chat. It's a really important survey to do. It provides wonderful feedback, obviously, to OTF, but it also drives their funding. They love to analyze the stats from these sessions and your feedback in order to plan for future PD for teachers, and this is quite a rich resource, as you have already discovered. Down at the bottom there, you can also see that there is a link to, and this is a live link as well, it's also in the chat, or it will be shortly, to future OTF Connect sessions. On the following slide, these are the sessions that are coming up next week, some wonderful sessions, and if you go to the calendar, you will also see, just a second, I'm going to put that in in the chat area as well. Here I am multitasking, talking and clinking. So the calendar has sessions for the rest of the year, and it's a full calendar, Mondays to Thursdays until May. This session has been recorded. I'll be stopping that recording shortly, and the recording link will come to you automatically after you log out. Also, the link to tonight's session and resources and everything that was part of this session will be coming to you as well. So thank you, all of you as participants, for such a rich discussion on many of the issues and your feedback and your thoughts and your questions. It looked like some of you may have gotten bumped out and had to come back in again, but that seemed to happen fairly quickly, so that just is a little bit of a thing that happens sometimes with Blackboard. There were multiple Jens and multiple Lauras that were registered. So if you're a Jen or a Laura, I just saw one of the Jens left, but if you're still in the room and you're a Jen or a Laura, can you let me know your last name, and then I can make sure that I have the right person recorded. So once again, Becky, that was a wonderful session. You did a great job, and participants from right across the province, thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording now.